you will see that the era of independent hotels is over. It's over. It started here in the United States. 70%, 70% of hotel rooms are branded.
But that's the US, right?
No. Just Europe used to be 10 years ago. Europe was 30% branded. Now it's 45. In the UK,
if you
more
believe
than 50.
STR, if you believe STR, who's got no incentive to find an independent hotel, those numbers are true. Go down any street in any city, you find 5, 10, 20 hotels. STR doesn't even claim
guys.
Max, let's
that's why we're talking about
independent
rooms.
Hotels and will always be independent.
But
they will be. But these independent hotels will be falling behind, simply because they cannot afford to hire the right people, knowledgeable
they're probably more agile, actually. I think that
they will not be. They're more agile, but they don't have the resources to invest in new technology, guest facing.
Yeah, but if it's SaaS, there's no investment.
Guys,
there was a link the other week.
Let's talk 10 years from now, and you will see that already in Asia Pacific, 45% of hotel rooms are branded.
Where in Asia Pacific? Yeah. Absolute nonsense. It's like
hotel
80%
rooms.
independent.
Hotel rooms,
80%
not hotels.
Independent. 80%
not hotels.
Show me a chain a major chain in any market. It's all independence.
Okay, so let's do the
Max,
research.
let me throw in something different here, because there was an interesting post on LinkedIn the other week from a friend of mine, and he essentially asked the questions about brands. And I said, well, first let's define what a brand is, right?
Yeah.
Is brand Hilton, or is it the 38 brands that are standing underneath Hilton, right? Because I'm sorry, but Holiday Inn needed to evolve to other 20 brands in order to still be competitive. And it seems every year the brands are rocking out another 8 to 10 to 15 new brands, just so that they can get the spirit of the independent, right? That's how I feel like it. And when you go on TripAdvisor, right? In a lot of cities, the top 10 hotels are independents, right? And maybe they're iconic, maybe they're for whatever reason it is. But I think the branded stuff for me in an era of hyper-personalization doesn't go together, because a brand is defined by standards across everybody, right? And now we're talking to everybody.
You're forgetting one only. Sure. I agree with you. And I always stay at independent hotels myself, anywhere that I go.
Yeah.
But you're forgetting one stakeholder, and this is the most important. This is the owners. For an owner, when you have and I have been at least at 150 presentations from major brands to independent hotel owners. When they come and they tell you, what is your occupancy? 60%. We can raise it up to 75. And here is how we do it. What is your ADR? Oh, it's 150 or 175, 1 or 200. We can raise that to at least X number.
We can also raise the franchise fees from 0 to 1,000,000% like that.
But the most important thing is the following: is when they say, how much? What is your commission that you pay to the OTAs? Well, it's 18 to Booking. It's 22.5 to Expedia. Okay, we pay 11.5. And what is your exposure to the OTAs? Well, the OTAs bring 60 to 70% of my room nights. Okay, the OTAs, this contribution by the OTAs will go down to 20 or to 30%. The rest will be direct. So when they present, and they have I've seen from IHG, I've seen from Hilton, I mean, one of the Hilton brands, or many of the Hilton brands, Marriott, of course, Wyndham. And when they do this presentation, you sit in the room and say, if I were the owner, I would sign up.
But you're talking about management agreements, right? Because at the moment,
no
brand is touching.
It will be franchise. It doesn't matter. Right. If you have a third-party management company, they can easily work with a franchise agreement, especially if they have the experience there. But No,
And
not,
Max, you're forgetting the important point. Those big brands probably can get discounts on those security robots too.
yes,
That we need at the front.
exactly. And the housekeeping robots that are marching in.
But so I do agree with a lot of what Max argues, but isn't it interesting that all of those proof points, they're really bugger all to do with the brand. Like, what these big companies are now is just arbitrage plays and financial leverage and negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
The brands, in most cases, exceptions to some of the great luxury brands who have invested in their brands, exceptions to some of the niche stuff that's kind of really interesting, but most of them are kind of like blah. Because you can go on TripAdvisor, you can read a review, and to Holiday Inn, there's some great Holiday Inns that opened a year ago that are fantastic hotels to stay in, and there are some really crappy Holiday Inns that needed a renovation 20 years ago and still don't have one today. And you would never stay in a Holiday Inn because it's got a Holiday Inn brand on it. You'd always go to TripAdvisor and see, is this one of the nice ones or is this one of the rubbish ones?
Yeah.
So the brands, in most cases, meh. And yet you pay so much for that. You pay so much to make your hotel look like a Holiday Inn, to do the CapEx, to do all of that. All of those things that, the better negotiating power, the better leverage, the better revenue management, the better distribution, that is interesting stuff. We argue that's the sort of stuff that we think creates value. The brands, not so much anymore.
I agree with you, but there are brands and brands. That's why, for example, Hilton, with fewer properties and than other major hotel chains, has a much higher valuation, and the main reason is that this brand consistency. The
because
Hilton Garden Inn.
The same as Marriott, that's the same as the Sheraton. It's brand consistency.
No, I'm not talking about Hilton now. So compare, let's say, Hilton to Wyndham, for example, and so forth. So within those major hotel chains, there's some that have achieved more or less like uniformity, if you will, within their brands, and you cannot have crappy Hilton Garden Inn and good Hilton Garden Inn. They're all good. Or, for example, that's why, for example, when Marriott acquired Starwood, the first thing that they did was to look at Sheraton, because Sheraton had lost its luster, has lost its yes, the brand was like a marquee brand, old brand, but half of the properties simply didn't belong to that brand. And now Marriott has invested billions in revamping the Sheraton brand. So what they mean is that I agree with you that some of the brands, that there are too many brands. It's like Expedia. Expedia has 22 different brands, including meaningless weaklings like Orbitz, for example, or Travelocities. They still kept hanging out there. The same is with the major hotel chains. I mean, there are too many brands, and I believe that there will be consolidation among those brands, because having 30 brands, how do you market? I mean, brand means expensive. It's very expensive to maintain a brand, to market a brand, to build brand equity, to create loyalty to the brand, and to come up with unique value proposition. I mean, anytime that they come with a new brand, and I agree with you, is they position it in the press releases, oh, this brand will cater for the global digital nomads, for example, or this brand will cater to this, to cater to that. And when you look at the mission statements of at least third of the brands that belong to the same major hotel chain, and you will see they have the same, they go after the same audience, the same clientele. So there's no unique value proposition in 30 different brands. That's my point. And I'm sure that
maybe the value proposition is on the franchise owner, trying to sell to. At the end of the day, a lot of those brands are catering to the investors to invest and have something a bit more out of the box.
I know. Yeah, that's the only value proposition.
Is technology the key to it all, right?
Well, it used to be
nicely back to the insourcing and all.
Yeah. I remember talking about with Sheraton, like one of the reasons you'd want to go with a brand is because you get access to their 1-800 number. And you'd have just going back when it was a way for guests to find you. There wasn't the internet, and that was a lot of the brand value. And now we say all the technology that's been, that's available today, I think gives the edge to the independents. They no longer need that infrastructure of what the brands had. So now the brands really left with a couple things. Okay, they've got their loyalty program, so there's value in there. They're bringing some of this technology and kind of packaging it all up for you. But all this could be achieved. That's where I think the independents have it. And I think the question of, okay, the margins with the OTAs, that's not lasting. That's something that's, I think they're just grabbing onto where they bring value to the property outside of the financial perspective to the owners. So I think technology is enabling the independents to bring better value proposition than what the brands can do. Excuse me?
Smart independence.
Sure. I mean, you can either just pay your way and give the brand or be smart.
We're saying smart independence. Then we failed as an industry, as technology vendors, to educate the industry.
Yeah, I mean, we find
that's true. We have failed.
We find, a good salesperson can go and have a conversation, and it's not necessarily that we're working. We're not working with big independent hotels. You can go and have a conversation, and it's not that people are smart or not smart. It's just that they're busy with other things. You go and have a conversation, and like, yeah, we can help you with that.
But so that's the problem.
And I think just having more of those conversations, and then I would agree. It's like then an independent can compete just as well. And I don't know, 20 years from now, I don't see why Marriott beats. Well, I probably do. This is probably a bad example, but if they really went for it, Sabre should be a bigger company than Marriott 20 years from now. Sabre should be able to say, hey, we don't need to build this technology for Marriott or for others. We could go and do this stuff, because the actual operating of the hotels, we can get a partner who can deliver that piece for us. Why don't we just go and talk to the owners and deliver this directly, rather than going through this middleman of Marriott?
What drives me crazy, if you have hotels, they always say, well, I'm too busy, occupancy's too high, I don't have time to think about how I should be operating, be more efficient. And now hotels are running here in Miami, they're 10 to 12%. And now they say, I don't have time because I'm short staffed, and your hotel is empty. Like, hoteliers love that. They're always, in a situation where they don't have the time to apply thought through the entire process. What are the different bandwidth? Yeah. It's excuse. It's because they don't feel comfortable with it. It's the typical, I don't feel comfortable with this technology, so let me just focus on what I can do. I know how to check people in. I know how to make their bed. All this other stuff I feel a little bit uncomfortable with. Not sure if there's value. Do I want to bring it in? But now is you have the time, instead of being bummed out about your occupancy and that you're driving the shuttle bus, rethink your technology, rethink how you should be running this stuff, so that when the stuff comes back, it will come back. We know that. Be ready. And then, your excuse for why you didn't do it then, it's going to be like, oh, I really missed that opportunity. So I think the folks that aren't using this time to really rethink how they're operating and how they're going to operate in 6 months, a year, I just feel bad for them. I kind of just want to shake them and just say, like, wake up, man.
Max made a very valid point, right? Here, in the sense of Zoom is like speed dating. It's like you go out there and you can be taken home or take somebody home, right? It's so easy. You never need to be trained on it. You can just do it. You go and buy a hotel tech, and all of a sudden it goes like, oh, Guido, thanks. Yeah, let me give you a 4-hour demo. Then the implementation time will be 3 years. And then I have to do 450 days of training with you, because it is so difficult, so that you see that you need those 2 little features.
And that's why you need to sign a 5-year contract.
That's why you need to sign a 5-year contract. That is one of the struggles that I see, that why are we making it so freaking complicated?
I think it's like a lot of insecurity. Like, to say something intelligent in few words is very hard. To come up with a great product and make it super complicated, we're great at that. Yeah. We feel like that makes it, it's a better product that's more complex, versus let's trim it down, let's make it really easy to use and make it easy for the consumer to grow and say, oh wow, wait, maybe I can do this, and unveil all the feature functionality. We like to just hit them over the head with really complex stuff, so they get lost and they feel like, oh, they need me. And it gives them this sense of, okay, it's innovative. No, it'd be innovative if it's something that you can just plug in and run away with it,
Yeah, I mean, Fabian, you were talking about your product, and like 95% of the value of your product came from the first page that you built or something.
Right.
I'm oversimplifying, but And we always feel the same. It's like, how do you keep stripping stuff back? I mean, we've always taken an approach of, look, we'll do the work for you. And if all you want to do is WhatsApp us to tell us that you're running out of room, that's fine. Like, we can cope with that. And then we'll build from there.
But wait, I have a disagreement. So like, if we look at the channel management, just going back to something, for me, like there's companies that were built on giving you extremely great service, but they didn't give the user the power. So it's always behind the scenes. You have to make it easy so the user can do it, and they don't need to depend on a great customer support team. That customer support team should be helping them, take it further versus doing the little easy things. So that's where I get nervous when you say, okay, we cover one problem by throwing a lot of bodies at it and giving them a lot of customer support and saying, hey, we'll do this all for you, versus let's make a product that's super easy to use that they can do it themselves.
The best customer support is the one you've never spoken to.
Right.
No, but I think what Dan is meaning is it's the same with analytics, for example, right? Yeah, I can give you a pen and a paper and you figure out the algorithm, or we can figure out why something is not delivering. And I think what Dan mentioned was there are some parts that we can look after. You don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? It's part of the overall service offering. It's the same with literally any client of ours has my WhatsApp number, right? Because I don't need you to log a support ticket to wait 24 hours for somebody to attend you to, because you're in the middle of something, you want to know what it is, you take a screenshot of your mobile, you WhatsApp it to me and say, what was that again? And you continue, right? And I think
that's the hospitality person in you that wants to have that type of contact and personalized service, which I get, and has a huge value.
It raises a great question. The technology people in hospitality, are they at core, or the technology companies, are they a hospitality company or are they a technology company?
Yeah, you see, because I think we're a technology company, and I think our hotels are hospitality companies. And my view is, I don't know how to run a hotel, and I'm not going to tell you how to deliver a delightful hospitality experience. What I do know is technology. And I think there's a separation. And so the reason I always say, let us do all the work, is because you let us do all the work, eventually I can automate that. So yeah, at the beginning, I'll throw 10 people at it. But once I know what those 10 people are doing, and they're all doing the same thing hundreds of times, then I automate it. And I can automate it through writing code. I can automate it through an script on a Google Sheet. Some of it's complicated, some of it's simple, but I can automate all that stuff, and then that problem goes away, and then we can go on to the next one. And that's the sort of tech stuff that I don't think hoteliers should have to be worrying about.
No, they shouldn't.
I mean,
it has to be as simple as possible. It has to be as simple as possible. We have to make it as simple as possible, because hotels don't have the bandwidth to learn new stuff.
I think I mean, we see this a lot in the back of the house. So, we're an IT company, right? And, a lot of our users, actually we have a complete split. So we have, housekeepers, managers, we don't want them and need them to be IT experts to be able to do their job. It has to be very intuitive, has to be very easy. And then at the same time with the front desk, you have these millennials who want all the latest and the greatest, and to be very modern. And you have to have that industry expertise and insight when you're developing something. And again, not having any service tickets or very few, because that your solution does drive value and is intuitive and is easy. I mean, that is what you're striving for. And so I also see huge value in these companies that have the industry expertise or have the deeper understanding, or really take the time as IT providers and thought leaders in the area, in the industry, to strive for that new value in your product and to be, ahead of the others, rather than just churning out features and functions because someone asked for it, or because, rather than kind of questioning, well, why do you need that? And how can we eliminate that? How can we measure that? How can we make that smarter or intuitive? I mean, I think that's where the true value comes in. And then, being able to demonstrate that improvement, that efficiency, that savings. So this isn't just kind of cheerful bringing pen and paper into an IT system, but you're actually truly adding value in an easy, intuitive way. And that kind of sells itself in a way.
I think it's so important having both those perspectives of it. I saw when all these vacation rental companies came in and they hired a lot of Silicon Valley smart folks to come up with a lot of technology. And then I got their API and I was like, yeah, this is great, but it doesn't work in our industry. Like, I'm sorry. And you butt heads for a year until they realize, okay, I'm going to have to give and really understand how this industry operates, good, bad, whatever. But I mean, if you want to be able to approach into the space of the hotels, you can't just come in with some API that some Stanford kid developed because he thinks it makes a lot of sense with these callbacks. Like, it just doesn't work. And that's where you need to blend, really smart thought leaders in technology with folks in the industry. And I'm not saying that should bring or hinder the technology. It just needs to make it smoother and make it flow and make it easier.
And more relevant to the industry. But I believe that technology now in the post-COVID era, I believe that technology will rule the day in our industry, and technology is coming big time because we have to cut costs on any level, all the levels, from labor costs to utility costs. So all of the IoT devices that sense whether somebody's in the room and so forth, and to automatically adjust temperature and so forth to the most economic level, if you will, if there's nobody in the room, and then turn it back on when somebody's sensed in the room and so forth. So all of this technology, other property, communications with the guests, technology is coming. The robots are coming. I think that the main impediment to adoption is not even the cost of technology, because you can rent it by the hour. You have for example, for your lobby bar, you have robot bartenders that do the job for 4 bartenders, 24/7, with no spillage, and adhering to the recipes, to the milligram. So what they mean is that and you can rent them, $10 an hour.
Giving
That's
drinks
it.
to their robot friends for free.
Yes. And then, they cannot hear your daily, experiences and the likes. You don't have a meaningful conversation with them.
Can I still be an RSA?
But what they mean, it's not the cost. I think that the main impediment is the legacy systems in place. For example, PMS, and the need to interface to the PMS. And if you have an Opera, Microsoft Opera, and you need an API, good luck with that. It will take you months. It will take you a lot of bandwidth, and until the industry solves this issue, and you can solve it via like API farms. I mean, SiteMinder, the Australian company, channel manager, they created, kind of a API exchange. I mean, there's some other companies in Europe that have done the same. Here in the United States, where you have a ready-made APIs, and you can plug in anything, any new device or any new software and so forth. So I think that the legacy systems in place, especially the PMSs, are the main impediment to technology advancements in our industry.
Guido's being taken over by technology as we speak.
I'm getting ready. I'm ready for the future.
Okay, maybe back to your points and the question I have to ask you, because we have definitely seen, and I'd be curious if you guys see this as kind of black and white. We have definitely seen 2 very distinct camps in this recovery playback, in terms of the ones that are really trying to figure out how to reopen, ramp up smarter, and embrace IT and do it smarter, better, cheaper. And the ones who completely have their head in the sand, and they laid off 80% of their people, and they're just trying to wait it out, come back and talk to me next year, and come back later and we'll figure it out then. And, conceivably missing the boat. I don't know if you guys see that as black and white and what you think the short, medium, long-term impact of that, those two approaches is going to be.
Well, someone said before, the ones burying their head in the sands are going to wake up in 6 months or a year and going, holy crap, I wasted that I'm always so busy because I'm driving the shuttle bus and I've just thrown away 6 months of free time because I was busy sobbing in a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there are 8,000 hotels in the United States that was one of the major hospitality research firms that came up with this number that out of 55,000 hotels in the US, 8,000 will never open. Think about it. 8,000 will just die.
Be the biggest boost to occupancy in the future.
Yeah, like Catherine, I think we last 3 months our sales team have been more productive than ever. So there's definitely a set of hoteliers out there who are like, oh shit, this is bad, but let's use this as I need to change, I need to adopt, I need to kind of get serious about how I do digital and these things properly.
Smart
so
hoteliers.
If you're not in that set, then you're just making the recovery harder for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, because
I think they'll get hit.
Getting more serious about it.
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of hotels, and you see that either they're depressed and they're really fighting it, and the ones that are saying, okay, how do I leverage this? They're tapping into their database of guests. They're just trying to, they're getting creative. And now it's like, I feel like it's the opportunity to be creative. There's less at risk. You're not like worried about displacing occupancy. It's a time, I think, for people to do things differently and try it out and evaluate and get ready for the future. And I think you're going to see the impact, not in the short term, but I think in the long term, you're going to see hotels be able to operate at much lower costs because they've just changed the way they work. And I think they've turned every corner. It's not that they're just looking at their booking engine conversion, looking at every department, every turn, every pillow has to be lifted, everything has to be evaluated, and everything is questioned. And the hotels that are doing that, they're going to succeed. And I do think it's black or white. You talk to somebody, either they're upbeat and positive, or they're Debbie Downers, and that's it's unfortunate. You kind of want to help them out, but I'd rather stick with the people that are really thinking about how do they leverage. This is such an exciting time. Like for me, COVID's exciting versus a bummer. Like unfortunately, I'm pot committed to this industry, and I think that's a good thing because I'm thinking about when things come back up, it's going to be a lot of fun. And now is a time that hoteliers should be really changing how we do things. And if you don't do it now, you'll never do it. If you can't do it when you're at 10% occupancy, you're not going to do it when you're, struggling.
80.
So
that's so we've definitely seen that as and just being able to offer in service optimization, being an optimization for hotels and being able to prove an ROI. I think these are the times that make our job, really easy. And then Rob, back to your point, I think what we've also seen, so we've seen those two sort of, head in the sand or tackle the opportunity. Then we've seen a whole slew of companies unwilling to change their business model. And this is what's been really crazy as well, because, just like if you're a company that offers opportunity and ROI and whatever, if you believe in that product, there might be a slightly different economics to not having a 2-year contract or not having a 5-year contract and being monthly. I mean, just like there is on many consumer facing products, there's potentially different economics. I know some of those smaller companies are struggling to shorten their contract life because of investors and what investors expect and want to see. But at the end of the day, if you can prove that out with low churn and customer retention and all of that, I think that proves itself as well. So we're also seeing the ones that are tackling the change, then unwilling to change their business model, which is also really surprising because that just, you have to adapt and make changes, especially in the short
Adapt
term.
or die. Adapt or die. That's as simple as that. I mean, especially, listen, whoever of you has been through the great recession, the financial crisis, 08, 09, 10, I would say. I mean, we are in a similar situation. We're exactly in a similar situation where you have very low travel demand. You have oversupply of hotels. And those hoteliers who didn't adapt, I would say they died. And, they died all over the world. There are many hotels that simply stop existing or were converted to residential or so forth. And the main reason is that they did not change. I mean, going back to my previous statement, I'm a firm believer that they're smart and that they're dumb hoteliers. There's no doubt. The smart hoteliers will survive, and they will, of course, they will use all the opportunities to change their business models, adopt technology, introduce efficiencies at every level, and they will be dumb hoteliers that will not survive, and or that will be just lingering out there until they're bought by somebody else, or the owners simply give up and join a major hotel chain. That's what it is, hoping that the change will come from top.
Conscious of time, so to wrap up with one question for everyone. Post-COVID, and I know it's a very generalization, but one piece of technology you would say a hotelier should be focused on post-COVID right now at this time. Fabian, you want to kick it off?
Me?
Ivy?
Absolutely. I would 100% go with our virtual revenue management assistant, because we're optimizing the actual user, right? And that comes in so many forms, because as Guido said, you might be driving your shuttle bus, right? But then if your little assistant tells you that you actually need to spend 2 minutes doing something, sweet, right? We're just making you better and you faster. So when it comes to optimization, I'm 100% in optimizing the human. It works.
Shameless plug. Guido.
Pick Fabian off for breaking his plugging rule.
Yeah.
So I would say so if I had to pick one, I'd first pick one on the revenue side and one on the cost side. So I'm still only picking one, but I'm picking for two different categories. So on the revenue side, I think how hotels are really interacting with their guests and reaching or expanding their customer base through their guests and making them micro influencers and reaching their guests. So a smarter way in how we expand the funnel and reach more dreamers and expand the customer base. The old way of just hammering our CRM and just trying to say, come back, here's a discount. I mean, we're just all about like jumping to bed with our guests versus let's build relationships with their friends, and let's do it through social media, a couple different systems. I think Flip2 is doing some really cool stuff about how to access cheaper way to generate new customers through their current guests. So that would be on the revenue side. And then on the cost side, I think how our departments work and intercommunicate. So one of the first things I built like years ago was this portal for hotels or intranet to facilitate the communication and facilitate how we move information and work with our guests. So I think there is some interesting companies out there really looking at how internal operations communications need to flow, and that'll help with your cost saving side. So revenue side, let's be smarter on how we reach new guests cheaper. Let's not just dump money in Google Ads. Let's use social media. Let's tap into our guests network. Unfortunately, I don't know that many people, but some people do, and they have hundreds of friends. How do you tap into that? Cost side, let's look at some different systems. I think Catherine's got something. There's some companies out there to look at in terms of how to operate on your cost side. So that's my one pick.
Oh, thank you, Guido. Over to you,
Yeah.
Catherine.
Yeah, since Fabian opened up the Pandora's box, absolutely on the operational efficiencies. I mean, there's just so much value there to be unlocked. And it impacts guest experience too. I mean, done well, you know, there's a lot of guest impacts on that side as well. So we just see such a strong ROI case, and at Opti we're delivering on that ROI promise. So absolutely, that's my vote.
Great, thanks, Max.
I mean, again, I will use Guido's approach. So on the guest-facing side, the one piece of technology I will pick is CRM. And the main reason is that the repeat business, people that know your property, people that trust you and your message, that you have a cleanliness program in place and so forth, are the key to survival in the post-COVID period. People that already know you. Otherwise, it will take a long time, a lot of investments, which you don't have, in order to convince newcomers to your hotel in this era of very low travel demand. So repeat business is the key, and CRM is the key to repeat business. So that's the guest facing. And then on the back end, I will look at my labor costs, and I will introduce robots, housekeeping, as much. I'm kidding, housekeeping as much. Listen, do you know how much a housekeeper in New York City gets an hour? $47 on average. $47 an hour, a housekeeper in New York City. And then, because they unionize, they cannot clean more than X number of rooms. And now, because of the cleanliness programs, disinfection and so forth.
What will you do about the robot union, though, when that starts up?
You have to spend 30% more time per room on average. So just imagine, you have a housekeeper making $47 an hour, and this housekeeper cleans 5 rooms, 6 rooms, 7, and that's it. That's the union mandated maximum. So the robots are coming, UVC light robots, electrostatic spray robots, housekeeping robots. And the main thing is that when you have all of this technology to clean the rooms and not to touch people with human hands and not to transmit diseases, it helps your guest acquisition efforts as well. When you present this consistently, that you use all of this technology in order to make the rooms, clean and COVID-19 free, if you will, then it helps your overall acquisition efforts as well. So that's my two technology takes.
Thanks,
robots
Max.
and
wise words. Thank you. Nick?
I think that they're all super valuable bells and whistles, but just that, because the hotelier in me says if you don't have a decent PMS running all this stuff and connecting all of this stuff together, you're not going to be delivering on your single promise. So what's the point?
PMS.
Your cloud
Cool.
PMS?
Thank you, Nick. And Dan?
Of course.
I guess I'm much more, maybe I'm a bit more like Nick, I'm much more basic. I think the supply-demand balance in the industry has shifted dramatically. Like, supply is fine, demand's going to have collapsed. And I come across thousands of hotels that don't have an API connectivity to the major sources of demand that are out there and don't actively revenue manage that stuff. So just channel management and a good revenue management piece on top of it, because you've got to get every little scrap of demand that's out there right now.